1-0 victory over Juventus. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we? Alexis Nunez joins us, who was at the game, Frank Leboeuf as well. But Stevie, overall, this was Real Madrid thoroughly deserved this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you said it in the highlights where Gregorio stood on his head, made some great saves, made some good saves, made a lot of saves. And that's why Juventus sort of hung in there.
Yep.
But really didn't offer too much. As I said, at the start of the game, Yildiz was busy. And obviously he put Colomani through. But after that, they didn't really threaten that much. And 1-0 didn't tell the real story.
Like a home game for Real Madrid, Alexis?
Yeah, Dan, 100%. It was a home game for Real Madrid. I think the official capacity that we got was just over 62,000, which means that the Hard Rock Stadium was pretty much 95% full, but majority of them were definitely Real Madrid fans. They did provide a pretty good atmosphere as well. The poor Juventus players, when they came on, when they were warming up, anytime they touched the ball, they were met with just a flurry of boos. And then, of course, as you said, great reception for Kylian Mbappe. I almost missed it because I decided to take a bathroom break thinking Real Madrid pretty much had this under control by then. And then I just heard this massive roar. I ran out of the bathroom thinking it was another goal. And of course, only to see Kylian Mbappe coming on. But I would also say probably majority of the shirts that I have seen here that people have on, along with Jude Bellingham, have been Kylian Mbappe. So everybody finally got to see the big, shiny, slightly new signing for Real Madrid today.
Alexis, is it fair to say out of the teams that we've seen supported, obviously a lot of talk about the South American sides, but when it comes to the UEFA teams, Real Madrid are the most supported side that we've seen in this tournament?
Yeah, definitely. I think Real Madrid, you know, that power of that shirt. I feel like there's two teams, one being Manchester United, the other being Real Madrid, that you could go on any corner of this planet, overturn a stone. You know what I'm talking about, Dan, and you will find even tortoises will know who Real Madrid is. I remember doing the Supercopa de España in Saudi Arabia and just even seeing Barcelona severely outnumbered when it came to Real Madrid. The power that they have is very, very strong, and I think that they treated those fans to a bit of a nice show today. I think Real Madrid definitely peaking at the right time in this tournament. Of course, everyone wanted to see Kylian Mbappe, but Gonzalo Garcia, what an absolute revelation he has been. I think he's only gone one game so far in this tournament without scoring a goal, and he treated the fans to that today. Of course, he didn't get the loudest reception when the starting 11 was announced, but I think a lot of these fans definitely will remember his name after this.
Frank, who caught your eye today?
Well, the whole team, I have to say, to Real Madrid, I found them very solid. But I have to point Gonzalo Garcia, because at the end of the day, that guy scores goals and goals and goals, while Mbappe was injured. And now, today, Mbappe came back. But you have to feel sorry for Gonzalo Garcia, because he doesn't deserve to get out. The guy has been absolutely tremendous. So it says a lot about the competition that you're going to see. How it's going to work with Xabi Alonso this year. Will Mbappe, maybe Vinicius Junior will be on the edge, because those players are pushing to play games and are absolutely good when they come on. That's going to be interesting to follow. But that guy made a huge impact immediately, just signed, scored goals, and you will have to count on him and with him, for sure, definitely. So Mbappe will have to be very, very good.
What's interesting, I know it's not a pre-season tournament. I'm not saying that, but we've seen it in the past, Stevie.
Yep.
Kids from the Cantera, from the second team, being given a chance in these sort of situations, then rising, scoring goals, catching the eye, then all of a sudden the season starts and they're forgotten. Garcia is someone who scored 25 goals for the second team last season, desperate obviously to make his mark this year, has taken his chance when he can within this tournament. But as a coach, as Xabi Alonso, how do you know really how good he is when it comes to coming up against big teams in La Liga, for example?
Well, you don't. And you don't until...
So literally you don't. Literally, there's got to be some sort of instinct there, doesn't there? As a coach, you kind of get a feeling.
When a guy like Garcia does this in this tournament, regardless of what you think of it, you look to the future.
Right.
And when I say the future, I'm not talking about the first game of the season. You're looking at a guy who has shown that in the company that he's in, he can produce. But that is way, way short of trusting somebody to play centre forward for Real Madrid and start the first game of the season when you've got somebody like Kylian Mbappe or 2 or 3 others who you know are way up the totem pole compared to Garcia. So it's great to know that you've got a guy who, if you have injuries, you can maybe play him without being worried that he's not going to be out of place. But I would suggest right now, if everybody's fit, there is no way this kid starts in the first game of the season.
Frank, do players know? Do you get a sense of how high a teammate's ceiling is, like a Garcia coming from the youth ranks?
No, I don't think that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that most players were surprised. They knew that if you sign for Real Madrid, even if you play for the second team, you have a talent, you have skills, but you don't expect to have such an impact as he had. Yes, it's a tournament. We can, I don't know how can we rank it, but the guy plays for Real Madrid. You have a pressure when you play a striker in Real Madrid and you are good. It means a lot. Therefore. He has a future, as Stevie said. Yes, of course, he's not going to be launched and play as a striker. But Xabi Alonso will have to work psychologically to make sure that guy is still spot on. And every time he's going to come on, he's going to be influential. So, but for the others, they now know what the guy worth, and they're going to trust him. They're going to give him the ball. They're going to go for it, and they're going to support him. So I think it's a very good start for him.
It's interesting. Last time, of course, we saw Gonzalo Garcia in a big game was in El Clasico. We had that big chance, didn't he? Barca against Real Madrid. Trent, how you rate him today, Stevie?
I've been pretty disappointed with Trent, to be honest. I thought he would be vibrant, and I'm not quite sure that playing 3 at the back with him on one side particularly suits him. He got a lot of balls in positions that he would get with Liverpool, but he's used to having somebody on the outside that he can either roll it to or use them in order for him to stretch the defence or to play a pass.
He got an assist, Stevie, for the only goal of the game.
Well, again, I'm not so sure he picked anybody out. I don't think he was trying to pick anybody out.
If he was playing for Liverpool, it'd be the best assist we've seen all season now, isn't it?
Well, I'm thinking that.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Do you want to keep talking?
I'm just disappointed that you just can't let it go. Just bitter analysis.
Don't ask the question if you don't want the answer.
Well, I'd like a fair answer.
I just think he gave the ball away too many times when he shouldn't have.
Meanwhile, for Alexis, for this game, it kind of had a bit of a friendly feel because Juventus, you feel, never really turned up, Alexis.
Yeah, do you know what, Dan? But I think Juventus will happily take this and go right back home or off on their holidays. Because remember the last time that we saw Juventus out there against Manchester City, they absolutely got toyed around with. And I think coming into this game, a lot of people thought, ooh, they're there for the taking, knowing Real Madrid, knowing the attackers that they have, knowing how deep their bench can go. And this time, Juventus showed up, and at least for the first half, they were definitely a lot more defensively resilient, but you could just tell they're still missing that extra quality in the final third. And Real Madrid were almost luring them to have a bit of a go, but the second half, Real Madrid came out and they absolutely punished them there, as you said. Trent, of course, I think Stevie's just a little salty because, come on, Stevie, he did get the assist. But again, as I said, if he were still in a Liverpool shirt, Stevie would absolutely be like, give him the Ballon d'Or for this. But again, Trent still taking baby steps, getting used to what is such a solid, and as Frank said, a team that carries a lot of pressure. And of course, the Real Madrid fans still out here in their numbers. But yeah, I think overall it did feel like a friendly game, especially for Real Madrid. They didn't need to go after it like they do in the regular season, but Juventus didn't need that. I think Mario said it yesterday, Juventus should use this game as a measuring stick because they know that they have work to do to get back to the Juventus of old. And I think now they know where they stand. They can be a bit more defensively resilient to not have a team like Manchester City blow them out of the water, but still a long way to go before they're able to compete with the likes of Real Madrid, even when they're not in their top gear.
Where to now, Alexis?
Well, we are trying to go to Atlanta because there's that juicy one between Bayern Munich and PSG. But word is we may get some time with Borussia Dortmund. We have yet to hear from them in this tournament, and they could be Real Madrid's next opponent. They're just staying at the hotel down the road from us, so we'll see if they let us in or if there's enough security to keep me out. But you know I'm a trier, so I'll get in.
Alexis, as always, thank you very much. Of course, speaking of Borussia Dortmund, that the remaining match then in this round of 16, they take on Monterrey tonight. That game live on DAZN, kickoff at 9 p.m. Eastern. Great game, end-to-end stuff. Maybe if you're a fan of defending, it didn't quite float your boat, but overall, over the 120 minutes, it was a thoroughly entertaining tie. The first tie, by the way, that Pep Guardiola has lost, no matter what version of the Club World Cup he has been the manager of. It's the first time he's seen his side go home defeated. This is what he had to say after the game.
It's a pity because we have been in incredible journeys here together. We have been in so good place. The vibe was really good, and I can say not thank enough to the staff, backroom staff, and especially the players, how they training, how they play in every single game, giving everything. We will sit with the club, we will talk, the players as well. And at the end, the players are really good, and the season will be so long, so many things can happen. So that is the reality, that is the truth. And we have to see how, Rodri apparently was good, and after he complained about his a little bit, his situation. So we need time for many players come back.
Rob joins us, Frank with us as well. Rob, you were at the game, and I was completely wrong about it. Obviously, I thought Manchester City would walk into the next round. Al Hilal came, they fought, and they won. And overall, this is a great advert for this competition, wasn't it? Because it was a thoroughly entertaining match over the 120 minutes with both teams clearly trying.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. In terms of what FIFA were after in terms of this competition, this is their perfect advert. It was two big sides from different federations. There was drama, there were goals, excitement, chances, end-to-end all night. Fans from both clubs inside the stadium, at a relatively full stadium, so generating a good atmosphere. This is exactly what FIFA wanted, and I was exactly the same as you, Dan. I went to the stadium yesterday thinking that City would stroll through, actually that they would stroll through that game and probably also their quarter-final and make it to the semi-finals in New York. And I suppose the fact that they didn't just shows how competitive this tournament is getting, because these big sides like Manchester City are just not having it their own way against a team in Al Hilal, who have obviously got quality players. That's what their investment is all about. But in terms of their level, I think maybe they surprised a few people last night.
I suppose, Frank, for people who didn't see the game, they could say, oh yeah, clearly though, Al Hilal wanted to post a message to the world, that Saudi Arabian football isn't down in the dirt as some would expect it to be. But Manchester City did turn up. This was a proper team that Pep Guardiola put out, and a team that was trying.
Yeah, to say the truth, I didn't watch the game live because it was 3 a.m. in France, and when I woke up and I checked the result, I said, what happened? How that's possible? I was expecting more a Paris Saint-Germain, Inter Miami result, kind of. And I watched the game, and to be fair, the first half, Manchester City should have scored more goals. But after the second half, that was a complete Al Hilal team, a completely different Al Hilal team came back, and they were spot on. I was absolutely surprised by their performances. But you have to check the names. Milinkovic-Savic, the guy, what does he do there? I'm sorry, he deserved to play in Europe, in big clubs in Europe, with all due respect to Saudi Arabia and some others. I saw Malcolm playing in Bordeaux. He was nowhere the player that I saw yesterday. So you have also to confront the weaknesses of Manchester City, especially on the second goal. How you can allow the player being so free when you have a corner kick for you, and that's your last defender is 70 yards away from his own goal. But defensively, we came back to Manchester City that we have seen last year.
Yeah.
Weak. That's insane.
Every time, and how many times did we use this phrase last season? Every time the opposition go against Manchester City, there's a vulnerability about them, and that was exposed once again last night.
Yeah, and the question, I said it when we were doing the commentary on the goals. I'd love to know, well, I'm going to answer my own question. I was going to say I'd love to know who's in charge of the defensive side, but it should, at the end of the day, be Guardiola.
Yep.
You know, you have these set-piece coaches, and I'm assuming that a set-piece coach is in charge of all aspects of it, not just when the ball goes in the back of the net, but when it breaks down and then the opposition counter on you. And so, at the end of the day, whoever decided that Aït-Nouri should be the last man doesn't understand defensive football at all. This is a guy that we said before he stuck a Man City jersey on is not a good defender. And you saw it in the highlight. He doesn't recognise when the danger's going to happen, and he doesn't understand where it's going to happen. And so when you're the last man, you've got no chance. So Aït-Nouri shouldn't be put in that position. In some ways, it's not his fault. And at the end of the day, it's Pep's fault, because he gets the final say on every single thing that happens with Manchester City. So he's going to have to take charge of the defensive side, because clearly the set-piece coach doesn't know what he's doing.
But, Robert, it seemed like a little bit Barcelona-esque in that high line that Manchester City were trying to play last night.
A little bit, and we couldn't really understand in the press box why they continued with it, because they looked vulnerable for the first 10 minutes of that second half. Al Hilal scored twice, and Pep Guardiola didn't really seem to want to change it. He made a couple of substitutions, but the back four were pushed really, really high up the field, and they just didn't deal with those transition situations well enough. Al Hilal were making a couple of passes and were through. Ruben Diaz at centre-half is a fantastic defender, but the one thing he lacks is pace. And it was almost like Al Hilal were targeting him at one point, just sending these straight balls straight through City's defence for their forwards and wingers to run onto. And actually, you know, I know that Al Hilal needed extra time to win the game. They were really, really unlucky not to win it in normal time. They had the chances in the second half to finish that in 90 minutes, and City really were hanging on. The first half, City should have scored more goals. They probably should have gone in at half-time 2 or 3 goals up. But after half-time, the game completely flipped on its head. Simone Inzaghi clearly recognised that there was something about City that they could get at. They made their chances count, and they were, for the second half of the game and for extra time, they were by far the better team, and that will be a huge worry for Man City. And actually, we spoke to Bernardo Silva after the game, and he said the first thing out of his mouth was that the teams we lose against all play like this. And to me, that's quite worrying, because that means that that's a pattern. And if it's a pattern, then surely you need to be able to do something about it to stop it, because that's what great teams, top teams do.
Let's hear more, actually, from Bernardo Silva. This is what he had to say, including that comment that Rob alluded to, the fact that obviously we've seen this before with Manchester City this season. No one wanted to lose. No one wanted more vacations. We're very used to not having holidays, unfortunately, because the schedule is crazy. But when we're in a competition, we take it very seriously, and we had a lot of ambition for this Club World Cup, and we wanted to win it. I suppose the question I'm going to ask you, Stevie, which is an impossible one to answer, is does he mean that?
I think he does. I think he's part of the City setup that is used to winning and used to competing it till the very last game. So he absolutely 100% wants to win it. I think the one thing he's not understanding, though, is that he's stepping on the field with the rest of his teammates, and nothing has changed in terms of the problems they have defensively.
Okay.
And that really is the crux for me. I don't think we should underplay that this game, by the way, just to stick up for you, should have been done at half-time. There's no way. City should have been at least 3 up at half-time. The goalkeeper 100% stood on his head. Now, from the second hand on, you can't argue, we're good. But the fact is, it should have been done. But all the Premier League sides will be watching this, and they will see that absolutely nothing has changed defensively. But they signed 2 young centre-backs, and none of them clearly are good enough yet to play.
Yeah.
That means they've still got the same players: Stones, Akanji, Ake, Diaz. You've got Gvardiol back in there. You've still got 2 full-backs that can't defend. So guess what? We shouldn't expect things to change in terms of defence.
So Frank, we don't just dismiss this result. Obviously, they brought in players, the likes of Ryan. As you look at Shirky, you kind of think, well, where is he going to fit in overall at the start of the season? We've mentioned, of course, Aït-Nouri as well. But when it comes to that defensive setup, very familiar faces and very familiar problems.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't understand it because as Steve just did, if you have to mention the players that you have. Everybody would love to have Ruben Dias, Akanji, Guardiola, Ake in their teams. And you don't understand what is going wrong. And remember, Dias, when he came, the first years, he won the Premier League every time. He was one of the best defenders in the world. There is something not matching in the way they think the defensive aspect of the game. And I think it's where Guardiola have to improve his game, is how to make those players who are very good players, good defensively. It's not only the names, it's how you make it work and how you settle down your defense and also the midfielders to make sure they work together. Because they seem to be out of composition when there is a counter-attack. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to settle. They don't know how to compensate. They don't talk to each other. It seems that they never play together and they never work on that aspect of the game. So we know that Guardiola worked a lot about the positioning of the ball. That's okay. The possession of the ball, sorry, that's good. That's good. But when do you when you lose the game, where before you were able to get the ball back immediately after? Now it's impossible. They don't do that anymore, so they are in danger defensively. And we didn't see an improvement for like almost a year.
Rob, it's interesting, isn't it? You take a look at the defence. Obviously, we've talked at length about that, and we also spoke after that Juventus game about the return of Rodri. And we're like, wow, it's like having a new player here for Manchester City. He made such a difference in that tie. When he came on last night, he looked like a player who's been out for a year.
He did. And he was superb in that Juventus game. And I think it was probably one of the reasons why City, as a team, were so impressive. But Rodri himself has spoken to us while they were in the States and said that he thought it was going to take months before he reached his top level. And you're right, when he came on against Al Hilal last night, it looked like that was true. He looked rusty. He looked a little bit tired. He went off towards the end. He came on, early in the second half. He went off before the game ended. Pep Guardiola sort of hinted afterwards that there was some kind of problem there, that he didn't get too into it, but suggested that Rodri had said that he didn't feel comfortable. And I think, Pep Guardiola at that point, as much as he wants to win the Club World Cup, has thought, well, we can't risk having such an important player be out for an extended period. Again, we're just going to take him off and wrap him in cotton wool. The worry is that Rodri is that important to this team, and there is just no one else who can do that job. At the moment, Kovacic is injured. He's had an Achilles operation. He's not going to be back for a few months. They spent an awful lot of money on Nico Gonzalez in January. He can't get a game. He's barely played. He barely played in the second half of last season in the Premier League. We've barely seen him at the Club World Cup. There's clearly an issue there with whether Pep Guardiola fancies him as a player or not. And the worry is that if it is going to take Rodri months to come back, there's no one there to step in. So either you're just waiting for Rodri to return and then you can return to your level as a team, or you're just kind of saying, well, we can't play in the way we want to without Rodri. And really, for a club the size of City, that's not really good enough.
It shouldn't be a surprise that Rodri struggled in the second game he came. The first, when you've been out for a while, the easiest game is the first game back.
Oh, really?
Your adrenaline's through the roof.
Right.
You can run all day. You're pumped up. Everything can't wait to get a hold of it. And then when you stop playing, you've just given your body a shock. His body's not been through that sort of, the nervous energy, all of those things in a game. When you finish and everything calms down, his body after that last game would be, oh my, what happened to that? How do I get over this? And so that's why you see him struggling, because it's really hard for the body just to all of a sudden get back to that adrenaline and everything else. And that's why it's going to take time. And that's why they need to look after him and be very, very careful.
Let's talk about the opposition. This isn't Auckland, by the way. This is a side that have spent a lot of money. And as Frank mentioned, of course, there's a lot of talent within this side. It's interesting what Milinkovic-Savic had to say after the game. You take a look at the amount of money that has been spent on these transfers, and it's certainly no change. You take a look at what his comments after the match were. And he said, let's see now if they'll criticise us. We showed them it's not like they are speaking about the league. We show against Real Madrid, Salzburg, Pachuca tonight. I hope we will continue to show it. Frank, what's interesting with that quote, I'm thinking, like, if this was Hollywood, you can imagine the manager's speech before kickoff. Go out there, show everyone. They've said that you've sold your footballing soul, that all you care about is money. Go out there and show them that you can still play. Does that actually work in real life?
Oh, it does. It does, because we are talking about ego. We are talking about players who are supposedly thinking about more money than football, than sport, than passion. But they are talented players, and some of them are under 30 years old. I always say, if you're over 30, you proved, maybe or maybe not, but it's a time maybe to, save some money. But before, for me, it's a pity, because you deserve to be in big championships. Sorry, but yesterday or last night, they showed to the world that that's a team who could compete maybe in the Premier League as well, because they have all the names and they have all the power, and physically they are still at the top to compete with any other club. I don't know what would happen in 38 games, but in that game, where everybody was agreeing to put Manchester City one of the favorites, one of the contenders to that tournament, that they were better. They were more consistent. They were solid at first, and then they were hungry, and they wanted to win that game. And with the talent that they have, I was naming Milinkovic-Savic, but so many others. I mean, Koulibaly signed for Chelsea.
Final.
Right.
It's 4 cup
we
finals.
didn't recognize him.
Right.
It's 4. They've just had 4 cup finals.
Right.
And Frank just said it there. It's a different ball game. 38 games when you've got to be at that level every single game.
No, absolutely. But we're not asking where this team would finish in the Premier League.
No.
We're talking about within this context, within this tournament. This is a side that can go a long way, because, as you say, for them, it's 4 finals. And I just find it quite interesting, the psychology of it, that you can press those buttons on the players to get them up another level.
Yeah, it's all the things that you asked the first question with. It's the one thing in your head. I'm going to show all these people that I can still play the game, even because I've gone for the money, and that's driving them.
Right.
That makes them run faster. Everything they do is just that little bit quicker and stronger than what they're doing. Probably 25 of the 38 league games they play, or whatever it is. That's the difference. It's dead easy to play in a cup final. Go ask Man United how bad they've been all season, but they beat City in a cup final. This team's got 3 other cup finals left, maybe.
Right.
And they could possibly win. As I said, I don't disagree with a word you said the other night, by the way. That's all. This can happen. Man City lost.
Right.
But as I said, they shouldn't have lost, because the game should have been over at half-time.
Of course, it will be Fluminense in the next round then, Rob. Who are favourites going into that tie?
Well, I think it has to be Al Hilal now, after that performance against Man City. And we have to remember that this isn't a one-off. I know that Real Madrid are perhaps not at their top level in this tournament, but Al Hilal have also drawn in the groups against Real Madrid. And Pep Guardiola said before the City game that if you can draw against Real Madrid, that shows that you're a top team. And I think obviously clearly they've got good players. We talked about the investment in the playing squad. The one thing perhaps we haven't spoken about is the hiring of Simone Inzaghi. I mean, he is a top manager. He's taken into 2 out of the last 3 Champions League finals. He is was one of the most sought after head coaches in Europe, and he's been lured to Saudi Arabia to manage Al Hilal. And having that kind of leadership and that guidance, that type of character to mould what is a great group of players, gives Al Hilal a real opportunity now in this tournament. They'll fancy their chances of getting through against Fluminense. That would mean a semi-final, possibly against Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea, again, haven't looked fantastic in this tournament. And when you sort of look at their path possibly through this competition, you can see Al Hilal being in that Club World Cup final, which for them, having arrived in the US, not being motivated by the money or the prize money on offer, but being motivated to show people the level of Saudi Arabian football, and all these players and coaches were right to move to Saudi Arabia. I think to reach a Club World Cup final would be a massive statement for Al Hilal and also Saudi Arabian football. One
thing before we let you go, Rob, as you're on, I'm obliged to ask you about Marcus Rashford, who has been linked to Bayern Munich now.
Wow.
It wouldn't be an appearance on the show without talking about Marcus, would it? Yeah, I mean, we understand that Bayern Munich are looking for a winger. They were linked with Nico Williams. They've asked about the conditions, the financial conditions that it would take to sign Marcus Rashford. United have been very clear that they're willing to accept offers around £40 million. They're also willing to consider loan offers, take Marcus Rashford on loan for a season. I'm going to bore you with the same answer though, I'm afraid. The problem is Marcus Rashford's wages. He is on an extortionate amount of money at Man United. He's got 3 years left on his contract. And before any of these deals get over the line, whether it's Bayern Munich, Barcelona, anyone else, they're going to have to be willing to match those wages unless Marcus himself wants to take a pay cut. And so far, he hasn't shown a willingness to do that. At some stage, he's going to have to make a decision because he clearly will want to play football next season. He wants to play in Europe. He wants to play in the Champions League. He wants to be in the England squad in the United States, the World Cup this time next year. At some stage, he's going to have to decide whether playing football is more important than money. And if he's willing to take a pay cut, then maybe the likes of Bayern Munich and Barcelona deals with those clubs come onto the table. But so far, sitting here right now, he's due back at Man United for pre-season training next week.
Thank you very much, Rob. Where to next? Where are you off to now, mate?
I've got one more game in Orlando, and then I'm off home. I'm tagging in the big hitters for the semi-finals in New York. Mark Ogden and...
There you go. Stuart Robson will be coming over for that, actually. Thank you very much, Rob. Much appreciated. If you want to hear about Stevie's beach vacation, then be sure to check out Extra Time, which is available over on our YouTube channel. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you very much for all of your questions. Frank is here and back from his seaside vacation. Stevie Nicol joins us. Now, you do this every year, Stevie.
Yes.
What's the one issue with your seaside vacation?
The seaside.
You hate the beach and you hate the sea.
I don't like the beach, I don't like the sea, and I don't like the sun. Other than that, everything's great.
Wow. So what do you do when everyone's having fun?
I'm sat under a canopy.
Just miserable.
I'm just doing my time, keeping my mouth shut.
Right.
Doing little errands if I need to go and help one of the kids out the water or dry them down. And then, and then I go back into my canopy.
Yeah.
Stay nice and dry and out the sun.
Last year, of course, we showed the picture of you on the beach with your socks on. Were there still socks this time around?
I didn't need them.
Right.
I wore a pair of my son's. You buy these shoes that go right over your foot and just up your ankle. So it stops all the sand and all the other stuff getting inside. So I didn't need socks.
Okay, so like all-in-one rubber shoe?
Aye. Yes. Rubber shoes, shorts, t-shirt and a hat under the canopy.
Get Ellen to send me a picture of that, most definitely. First question, a lot about the discussion that myself and Herc had yesterday. Dan's rant yesterday didn't age that well with Al Hilal beating City a few hours later. Has he had a rethink about it? In case you missed it, we discussed the fact that my argument was that this is turning into a bit of a diluted Champions League because of the number of UEFA teams who had qualified for the quarter-finals. And I say that's a problem because these teams don't care as much as other sides that are competing within this tournament. Then, of course, Al Hilal blew that theory completely out of the water, defeating Manchester City. So in that sense, and I think it's one of those tournaments, if you like it and you want to watch it, then fantastic, enjoy it. But my issue is what Herc said yesterday was that it's been a huge success. And I think that's a very difficult thing to sit here and agree with, considering the problems that we've seen with the attendance, with the pitches, with the weather delays. And I think in football, what makes something a success overall is the fact that both teams are desperate to win it. And both teams, that's why the World Cup is so beautiful, are so desperately disappointed when they don't. And I think that maybe is a slight problem, and that's down to obviously their attitude, the club's attitude. It's got nothing to do with who else is within this tournament, but I think that kind of takes the edge away. A little bit like a Community Shield. If you win it, obviously you're very happy to have won it. If you've lost it, I don't think you're losing any sleep over it. And I think when it comes to a neutral watching it, that just takes a little bit of the magic away. But if you disagree and you love this tournament, that's fine. I don't need to hear from you. It's all right. Thank you very much. But that's kind of where I stand on it. Frank, do you want to join in?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And your comment yesterday was only fair because that's what we were all seeing. That's a real surprise and good for Al Hilal and good for the FIFA as well because yeah, it's true. It's advertised that competition a big time. But after having seen Paris Saint-Germain dominating Inter Miami. You had the right to think that way, and everybody thought that it would be an easy game for Manchester City against Al Hilal. And credit to that Saudi team, they showed us wrong. But I'm with you. I'm with you with the comment, and I will wait to rank that performance until maybe the end of the competition and see how that team competes with other big European teams.
I think you covered it well, Danny boy.
Look next, Stevie. We have been in the sun. We're going to have an argument. Will Pep secretly be happy that his team didn't go all the way in the Club World Cup and now his team can rest better? Yeah, what do you think, Frank?
Why? What is it behind the answer? Is that because it's Saudi Arabian honor, or is it because they're going to go on holidays?
Hey, I think it's that. Let's go with the latter.
That's for the second option.
Let's go with the latter.
Yeah, the second option. Yeah, that's going to be. In fact, yeah, he's going to be happy. After a while, he's going to realize that it was worth the loss of that game and getting out of the competition to allow the players to rest. I mean, with the season that City had, they need a rest. They need to, fresh up and wash out what they have been through and allow players like Rodri to properly train and be back at their best. That's the end of the season, really, for them right now. So it's a good thing that they can have a break.
Well, of course Pep probably wanted to win it, but at the end of the day, they've still made 50 million.
Oh.
And Pep's actually had a great opportunity to see what he's got.
Okay.
And spend time with him. So he can have a couple of weeks off now and try and figure out how to manipulate all the little pieces that he's worked out that he's got and who's going to play well with who and figure things out. So, yeah, I think in terms of for Pep, it's not a bad thing.
This is a subject we get a lot of messages on. Bayern wants an additional winger. PSG had Barcola and Dua, yet still bought Kvaratskhelia. Yet you guys seem to have a problem with Barcelona's Nico transfer. Once Jamal or Rafinha gets injured, we have no source of creativity on the wing. This is obviously the rumours that Nico Jackson is coming in, and most people on the pundit don't quite understand why you need him when you've got Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. Yet, Frank, Barcelona fans are saying, well, yeah, what happens when one of those get injured? You need backup.
Yeah, you need a backup, but the backup cannot be a first choice for any other team. That's the issue. You need a backup, which means that somebody who's less good than the player the coach is gonna choose. So no doubt that right now Due is better than Barcola, and Barcola could go away and try to find another club, but he knows that he plays for the best team in the world. So the problem is if you take, like for example, Rafinha on the left side and you take Nico Williams to play when Rafinha is injured, that's the guy who just won the European Championship, who has been absolutely fantastic with his team. So he's not going to be somebody being on the bench. He's not going to be happy. So maybe in a dressing room, that's going to be a problem. So you have to be really picky on the second choice you're taking, because that's, it's important, as Marvel Peters says, but you cannot be at the same level than the first choice.
I think I said Nico Jackson, Nico Williams.
Yeah.
When you were at Liverpool, Stevie, you said
Nico Williams,
one of the most important things. No, it was me who said that. Like over the summer, to bring in people, to continue to improve the quality.
Yep.
So why is this not a no-brainer?
Well, because you're upsetting the balance of the team. This is not a case of. This is not a case of somebody's maybe coming to the end of their career, so we're going to bring somebody in who straight away could play in that position, and then they'll probably know that as well. This is a situation where one player has had the greatest season of his life, and you're going to tell him to move.
Right.
Because Barcelona are not going to go and spend that amount of money on Williams and not play him. That means you're moving arguably your best player over the course of the whole season in order to get somebody else. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Frank, with all the shock results we've seen in the Club World Cup, what do you remember about Greece's shock victory over France in Euro 2004? Remind us what happened for those who forget.
Yeah, I guess France lost against Greece because Greece won the 2004 tournament. Yeah.
Right, good. You
But
lots of memories about that.
Well, every game was the same, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I wasn't playing anymore,
Yeah,
so I
stuff it.
didn't even care about it.
Yeah, that's good. Let's not even
So,
pretend.
Every game
Yeah,
was the
but
same.
that was
Greece
yeah,
put,
that was
Greece
very
put
strange,
11
that
men,
tournament,
10
with
men behind the
Greece
ball and scored a goal on the break or from
Yeah.
a set piece and won 1-0.
There you go.
All the way through the whole
I think
tournament.
they won. I think they won twice against Portugal. The first game and the last game. Is that correct? The final?
Sure.
That was insane.
Sure, but anyway.
So, you don't know. Okay.
Stevie, being quite possibly the most Scottish man in all of television. Wow. Did you have much of a cultural shock settling down both in Liverpool and the US? Were there any particular moments on and off the pitch that made you think that you were settling in nicely? What was the biggest shock? Can I ask you? Sorry. What was the biggest shock moving from Scotland to Liverpool? What's it?
The biggest? No, there wasn't really.
Right.
Because I walked into a dressing room full of Scottish people.
That's true. You had Dalglish, you had Hansen, yeah.
So, it was dead simple. It was dead easy.
Yes.
And obviously, my wife now, my girlfriend, moved down 6 months later. So, no, it was pretty easy. And in terms of coming to the US, it was way harder.
It makes me laugh you call Natalie your girlfriend.
Oh, yeah. Weird, isn't it? In terms of the US, it was harder for Eleanor than anybody else.
Because you were busy, yeah? You were off.
Well, I've got the team. I've got all the guys at the team and the staff and the whole thing. And the kids, first day they went to school, that was it. I mean...
They settled in really quickly.
Oh, I told you, my daughter, you could drop my daughter into the middle of the Pacific and a bunch of sharks and she'd end up making friends with them. That's what she's like.
But I remember, was it in your book that you wrote that it was nice for Michael in that he wasn't Steve Nicholls' son anymore?
Aye. He now was the Brit.
Right.
They called him the
So
Brit.
something unique for him.
So all that baggage about being a football player's son was gone. Because nobody here knew anything about anything.
Oh, nice.
Didn't even get his results.
If a famous actor was to play Stevie or Frank in their biopic, who would they love and who would they hate to play them? Stevie, you were just looking someone up.
What was I? I don't know if any of the viewers will remember it, but you need to look this up.
Okay.
There's a movie called Napoleon Dynamite.
Right.
And there's a ginger, specky, pale-faced guy that is the star of the show.
Okay.
And I wouldn't want him to play me.
Right. I think it looked quite good from what you showed me. I think that's good.
You've got to look it up. His name was John...
You wrote it down?
Oh, so did. John Heder.
There you go.
Napoleon Dynamite. Look it up.
Hey, I've never heard of
Please.
it. Frank, I don't think Frank's heard of it. He can't remember what happened in the Euros, let alone Napoleon Dynamite. Which actor are you going for, Frank?
To play myself?
Yes.
In my biopic?
Yeah, to play you.
Or play you, one of the two.
I would have loved Sean Connery.
Yes, yeah. Final question. Frank, how would you react to going out...
Ask Frank to remember.
Frank. Oh.
You remember what Sean's favourite food is? It's Hungarian.
Yes, I know. I forgot. You always do it so well. Do it for me.
Goulash.
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 Well done.
Sean Connery.
So Frank, how would you react to going on a meal with Dan wearing his shorts and Stevie wearing his slippers? This become a bit of a problem. Stevie keeps forgetting to change his shoes.
Frank would go home.
Well, it already happens with Dan wearing shorts. Never happened with Stevie at the same time wearing his slippers. But we had some dinners together, and it was enjoyable. And I didn't look under the table, I would say.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Right.
Frank, thank you very much. Stevie, lovely to have you back. You look so well rested and tanned.
Oh, yes, I had such a lovely time.
Oh, that's so good.
Can't beat a bit of sun.
Rest and recuperation.
Yes.
That's what you need, Steve.
Yes.
Just switch off for a while.
Yes.
Stevie will be in the Liverpool Echo tomorrow, saying that Harvey Elliott needs to move. Be sure to check that out. Also tomorrow, who's in? Are you working tomorrow as well?
Yeah.
2 days in a row, Steve.
3.
3.
How's it, no?
Is Burley here as well?
I've no idea.
Oh, Craig's here as well. That'll take you out of your holiday mood.
Magic.